Okay, let's make some chicken pot pie today. It's not the quickest thing on the planet to make, but it's not that hard either. Alright, I've got my stuff all cut up a little bit to make it a lot easier. I can keep some of this stuff in the freezer too. Alright, so this is my butter. You want diced up butter, doesn't matter how you dice it up, but stick it back in the fridge, get it ice cold. And then I'm using Crisco. Crisco's kind of flat tasting, vegetable shortening, but it's not as rich as butter. Butter will give it the flavor. This will give you a little more steam. Alright, I lay it flat between parchment paper and then press it flat and stick it in the freezer. I'm not going to play with that too much. You don't want to play with this stuff. Everything needs to be ice cold in order for a good pastry dough to work. Okay, so what does it say? 2.5 cups of flour. I already have that sifted out. 1 teaspoon of salt. That may seem like a lot, but you want to have a little bit of flavor for your dough. And I'm using this pastry cutter, dough cutter, butter cutter. Things are great. They work perfect for cutting dough and cutting butter into stuff. Okay, that's mixed. It says you're going to start off with 3¼ ounces of vegetable shortening. All right. This stuff you don't want to play with it much. You want to dice it up if you can. You want to get this fine. I'm going to just get some flour coating over the top of this. Okay, and then we're going to break it up just a little bit with our fingers just to get it started. Alright, then with our cutter, you want to get this into a nice meal. This is going to give it kind of a soft base. And once you get everything here cut in nicely, the butter is going to be in bigger chunks. And the bigger chunks of butter is what's going to give you the layers in between. Because once everything starts cooking, the butter melts, the fat melts. And when that's all melting, that creates a little steam that gets layers and flakiness. These work great. You can use 2 forks, 1 fork. You don't really want to use your hands unless you have to doing these. Okay, it looks pretty fine, huh? Get down there and scrape that bottom up. As I was saying, the less you play with this, the better off and the more flaky dough you're going to have. Okay. That's like a nice cornmeal. Not cornmeal. Oatmeal consistency. Alright, let's get our butter in there. This is 4 ounces of butter. So that was 3¼ ounces of Crisco. This is 4 ounces of butter. Same thing here. I'm going to get in here and just kind of give this a toss to get it started. Now you can work these with your fingers, any way you want to do it. But the least you play with it, the colder that butter is, the better off everything is. So we're just going to get a little bit of flour. Doesn't matter if you're getting it on the table. You're getting ready to dump this out in a minute. Coating all those butter pieces. This is going to be a double 9-inch crust. And this is I got from the Joy of Cooking, which is an older cookbook too. It's been around for a long time. I've used this to make a lot of pies. I guess the bigger your bowl, the better off you are. Okay, you want these to be about the size of peas when you're through. Nice, huh? You could also just kind of like press them between your fingers. But don't play with it a whole lot. When everything's getting out of hand, it's all right. Get out our trusty bench knife and get that back in there. Okay, so water, ice water. This, you put about a tablespoon at a time in this. Some nice chunks, huh? Nice. So, I get right down the center of that thing. That's about a half tablespoon. About a tablespoon. Give it a little toss. You don't need a whole lot. This is going to need between 2 and 4 ounces, depending on how moist your flour is, depending on the year, time of the year. Okay, you grab it when you do it and see if it's starting to bind together. That's 1 tablespoon. 3 teaspoons to a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons to an ounce. Okay, give it a grab. Still not binding enough. Once it sits, it'll get a chance for the flour to hydrate. That's about 1.25 ounces. Alright, it's starting to bind up nicely on me. You can see it. Still not enough to do anything. And refrigerating this afterwards gives it a chance for it to... Let me get that chunk out of there. We're not going to need that thing. Gives it a chance for that butter to solidify again. Alright. Just about 2.5 ounces. It's not going to look like a whole lot until you get it out on the table. Give it a little squeeze. It's still starting to break up. Okay, a couple more tablespoons. I think we're going to be good with that right there. How's it looking? See, now it's starting to bind up nice, huh? Look at that, I'm giving it a little pull. Okay, I'm thinking maybe it's another tablespoon. Okay, this is looking good. Now when you grab it, it's starting to look like a dough, huh? Alright, so we're going to flip this guy out on the table. Okay. And just kind of grab it and ball it up. Give it a flip over. Don't play with it too much. Just kind of get it into like a cohesive mass. And we're going to take our knife here and cut this in half, since we're making 2, right? And wrap it in plastic wrap, which I don't have. And that's going to go in the fridge for at least 30 minutes. Okay. Let's get those out of the way for a second. I'm going to get those in the fridge and clean this up, and I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Got that all cleaned up. Let's make this the filling. This needs to cool, so we're going to go ahead and cook that now. Okay, let's start off with a couple tablespoons of butter. Let's see, I don't know, 2 tablespoons of butter, because we're going to need to make a roux to thicken this up in a minute. That should be plenty right there. And we're going to sweat some carrots, onions, and celery. I got 1 medium onion, a large stalk of celery, and 1 medium carrot. Sweating means just to soften it up without adding a whole lot of color. No color if you can get away with it. Okay, this is going to take about 4 or 5 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and let that cook down. And I'll be back in a minute, okay? Okay, we are back. This has been sweating for about, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes. Carrots are starting to get tender. Celery's starting to get tender. Okay, we're going to add a little, I don't know, 2 cloves of garlic. I didn't put it in there before because I didn't want it to get dark and burn up on me. Just get that down to the bottom real fast. Okay. And we're going to be using chicken broth that had a bouillon cube in it. I'm going to put a pinch of salt in here just to get some flavor. So I'm using the bouillon cube for our chicken broth. So that's going to be salty, so I'm not going to add a whole lot. And then we're going to crank a little black pepper in here for flavor. That garlic's cooking up nice. Sweating is usually like a moderately low temperature. Just enough to get things going. Could have put the salt in earlier. The salt would have helped it release the juices. Okay, that looks pretty good, don't it? Celery's soft. It's going to have a chance to cook a little bit more in a minute, but not much. Alright, so we got about 2 tablespoons of butter in there. So let's give it about 2 tablespoons of flour. You want to use equal parts, however your fat you put in there, and flour. Just let this cook up a little bit. That'll absorb the flour into the butter. There'll be a lot of veggies in this pie. They're going to cook down a little bit too, but not a whole lot. Okay, that's not greasy at all, which is good. We want to make a fairly thick sauce out of this, so different ways of doing these. This is going to have a bottom on the pie, so you don't want it to be super wet. The ones that don't have a bottom in the pie, you just put the stuff right in it and cover it. We'll go over that in a minute. Okay, it's starting to brown up a little bit, nice. So what I've got is about 1 cup of chicken broth here. I'm going to go ahead and add that to it. And I'm going to use a little bit of poultry seasoning in this, just to give it a little bit of flavor. I didn't want to put that in a minute ago because I didn't want that to burn up on me. This is looking good. That's going to reduce down and get thick because we still have to put the half and half in there. I'm going to reduce my heat just a little bit. And you want this to be cooled when we put it inside of the pie dough, because we don't want it to go melt in that butter. That's coming into a nice paste, isn't it? That's looking good. The longer it cooks, the little thicker it's going to get. And I got about almost 3 cups of chicken here. This is diced up dark meat. Leg quarters, actually, so there's some drumstick in there too as well. You can use a rotisserie chicken, you can use a breast or whatever. You probably get about that much out of a rotisserie chicken. Those are easy because you buy them and they're cooked already. You definitely want to use a cooked chicken in here. In this, you could put about the same amount of ground beef that's cooked, ground pork, lamb. Alright, that's nice and pasty, huh? That's good. That flour's done all the thickening it's going to do. So I'm going to add about 1/4 cup, maybe a half a cup, half and half here. This is going to give this a nice creamy texture to it. That looks good. Maybe just a little more. There we go. Just give that a second to cook. Give this a taste. We're not going to have much more of a chance to fix the taste after we put that chicken. Good flavor. Veggies are nice and soft. Still got a little bit of a bite to them, which is good. Alright, let's go ahead and add the chicken to it. Everything's in there, right? Yes. And what good is a pot pie without peas? Gotta have peas in your pot pie. We're just going to give this a toss. Turn off the heat. And there we have our filling. You wouldn't go beating this around too much. You don't want to break that chicken up. You want to have some chunks. Now in the clubs, we would leave the chunks the size of a finger, because we would just put it inside the casserole dish with all the vegetables. There we can control how much meat is in each one. So everybody got a little chunk of thigh, everybody got a nice couple pieces of breast cut on the bias so it was nice and tender. And there's our filling. This is a 10-inch pan. We're going into a 9-inch glass pan. So it should be perfect because this is right around the perfect height. So that's going to take another 15 minutes, at least 18 minutes for that pie dough to cool down. This is going to take a good 20 minutes to cool this down. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the fridge and let it cool. And we'll be back in about 20 minutes. Okay, we are back. First off, put that oven on 450. We're going to get that thing hot. What that's going to do is give a chance for the bottom to brown up a little bit so you don't get a soggy bottom, and get some good color in there. Then we're going to turn it down to 350 after about 15 minutes or so. First thing I'm going to do is get some flour down on our board. This may turn out to be pretty sticky. We don't want it to stick. Okay, so we're using a 9-inch. How's this guy look? Looks nice, nice and hydrated. Got a little softened up a little bit. Now the gluten is relaxed in it, so it's not going to be trying to spring back on us whenever we roll it out, which is good because when we put it in the glass pan, we're going to get our shape and we don't want it to shrink a whole lot. So let's get this floured. The flour on top. So we're using a 9-inch pan. So we want our bottom one to be about 13 inches. That'll give it a chance to spread enough. And then when we put the top on, our top piece can be a little bit smaller. Now you don't want to go rolling back and forth across this, because that's going to create a ton of friction, which in turn is going to heat up your butter, and just not what we're looking for. Okay, so you just kind of go just to the edge and then back once. Try it a little bit and make sure you got plenty of flour down underneath here, because this guy's going to stick. Go back and turn. And have your bench scraper if that's what you want to use. Turn. Now this is going to be a medium, what do they call it, a short dough, medium dough. If it's a short dough, it's a little drier, a little more elasticity. A medium dough, we're going to come out with just about right here, what we're working with. A long dough would be super flaky. Okay, make sure you keep adding some flour to this rolling pin. You don't want to incorporate a whole lot of flour into your dough at the time. Alright, keep making sure this guy's not sticking on you. Once it gets too big, we're not going to really be able to do much. So we're going to go for about 13 inches. It's okay if it's breaking up a little bit. You can see the little flakes of butter in there. Okay, let's see what we got. There's our 9-inch pan. So we're sitting at about 10 inches right now. Let's go a little bit longer this way. A little bit that way. This should be plenty, right? So there's a couple ways of doing these. You can take your dough, make sure you got enough flour in there. Make sure you're not sticking. A nice long spatula works good for this. And you can do it this way. Fold it in 4. Oh, that's sticking a little bit. That's okay. And then when you fold it over, you can lay it in your pan. So you go right to the middle, and then you can unfold it, right? Or you can roll it around your rolling pin and lift it up and lay it on there. But since we already have it folded, we're going to go ahead and unfold it. Put it right to the center, unfold it this way, and unfold it the other way. This guy's breaking up pretty good, so, which is okay, that's going to be on the bottom. But you don't want to go stretching it. You want it just to fall in place. So lift it up, let it fall in place. Now you can patch it, because this isn't going to be seen anyway, right? Let's hope our other one isn't as soft as this. But you do want to patch it though, because you don't want it to leak out. Okay, it looks good. No holes. Down in the sides nice and tight. How's that look, huh? Let's grab our filling. With our filling, it's not ice cold, but it's definitely not hot enough to melt the butter that's in the dough. It looks a little dry now, but that's because that sauce is all coagulated. Okay, looks good, huh? That's about a perfect amount for this little pie here. I'm going to lift that up and get it out of the way. Clean up our little sticky spots. What a nice smooth beginning. And a little more flour. Our oven's preheated nicely. grab our other one. Now this one we're not going to have to go 13 inches because we had a 9-inch pan. So we need to go about 11, 10 or 11, because we just need to get to the edge of the pan, and then we can trim it and then cut it down. Okay, and we give it a press. Put the flour on top. Same thing, just get it started. Try to keep your shape as much as possible. Nice big chunks of butter in there. Just like rolling it out, you just give it a little turn every time. Give it a press. You'll be able to keep your round shape. This can be a nice flaky dough. All right. Some nice clean flour underneath there. There we go. Make sure it's not sticking on you. Right, nice. Get a little more flour into there. What do you think? It's about the right size. Okay, so this one, we're going to clean this off. I'm going to roll it up on here. Hope it doesn't stick real bad. Clean it off a little bit as we're going. Beautiful. Okay, then we lift it up, set it to where you want it. Just unroll it nicely like that. What do you think? Then I'm going to take a little knife, trim around the edges. Don't go all the way up against it. Well, as you can tell, I haven't made a pie dough in a while. So before I go any further, we used to use something like this, a little bit oval, a little longer and bigger. We put the chicken down inside of it, like I was saying earlier. We could put a nice piece of breast or two, a piece of dark meat inside of there, then put the vegetables in it, and then we'd put the sauce over it. And then we'd roll out our dough, and then lay it right, or puff pastry actually is what we use. We'd lay it across the top, and then bake it off as one piece. All right, here we go. Look at this guy. Okay, so now we're going to kind of crimp it a little bit with our fingers all the way around. Get a good seal. It's going to boil out of there, but that's okay. Okay. All right, just grab a hold of one piece here with your finger, another piece here. Right? Press. Go to the next one. Press. Go to the next one. This is kind of fluting. Actually, we can go the other way. I forgot. This is called fluting. So you push with your thumb, press with these two, and then it gives you a little shape around the edge. And but you're also crimping it down. This isn't going to be beautiful. Finally, the fridge has been on for 45 minutes for some reason. right, now if you wanted to, you can take this stuff and roll it out, make leaves, shapes with your knife. Lay them all across the top. You'd have to egg wash it and then put that on there. Want to do that? Let's do that. This one looks good. I don't recommend cutting on the stainless table with your knife. All right, so this you have to let steam out. So let's get a couple cuts in here. 1, 2, 3, about 2 inches long, right? 4, don't hit the bottom like I did. Okay, then we're going to take an egg wash, 1 egg, a little bit of water in it. You can use milk, that'll give it a really shiny top. This will give it a golden, crispy color. This will be kind of nice. Make sure you get it covered all over. I'm using the smallest brush I have so I don't put just gobs and gobs of egg wash on it. It's going to help seal those little cracks too. Down inside of those holes. Because steam is going to figure out a way to get out no matter what. That's going to create a lot of steam in there. Alright, looks good. This ain't gonna be the prettiest pot pie on the planet, but hey, 1 leaf. Can't have a leaf without leaf shapes, right? If you did fruit pies, you can make little berries out of the balls, lay them on there. It looks like we need one more. That looks like a good one. Here we go. And don't forget to egg wash that guy too, right? Okay, anything that's puddled, get it out of there. That won't look good when it's done. And there we go. One ugly looking pot pie, but it's looking good. Let's get that in the oven. I'm going to get it on the bottom rack closest so it gets some good heat. And after 15 minutes at 450, I'm going to turn it down to 350 for 30 minutes. All right. And don't forget to like this. I know it was kind of funny, but hey, let's see how it comes out. Okay, it's been 15 minutes at 450. Let's pull this out and have a look at it. See what our options are. It's looking good, right? It looks pretty darn good. Close that oven back up. So here's an issue. When you have thin edges like this, am I in the picture? Yes. When you have thin edges like this, they're going to brown off and possibly burn at the heat. So first I'm going to turn this down. All right, so they'll burn around the edges. So what you do, you make a guard for it. And take a piece of foil, You don't want to rip off. I mean, the thing is 13 inches times pi. It's a pi. That's kind of funny, but 13 times pi. So, and that's going to be like, I don't know how many inches. So what you do is just take a nice piece and cut it down the middle. All right. And then kind of grab it and wrap it around your edge. What you're just trying to do is deflect the heat. Okay? Our little pieces look pretty cool, don't they? The same thing. I'm going to wrap that around the edge. And that's going to protect those super thin spots. You don't want to go busting it up. Be fragile with it. Be careful with the thing. Okay. Now I'm going to stick that back in the oven. Be careful when you put this back in the oven, that foil is going to grab all your racks and everything. So we're going to put this back in the oven. It's turned down to 350, and we'll go about another at least 30 minutes, maybe 25. All right, and we're back on the bottom rack again. Back in a minute. Here we go. It's been 25 minutes since we put it back in the oven. Let's see what we got. Here we go. Here's our pie. Looks good. See, that protected the edges nicely, right? That high heat cooked the bottom up for us real nice. Gave it some heat before we turned it down. Let's see what our temperature is inside of here. Should be fairly hot. Oh yeah, we're at 180, 185. Plenty of heat. If you had a chicken that was a couple days old, you're definitely going to be cooking bacteria out of that guy. So there's our pot pie, chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie. We're going to let this cool for at least 15-20 minutes because I'm not going to go digging into a boiling hot pie. Our little fluting on the edge is nice. We got a little shine from the egg wash that's on there. That sealed up pretty nice. Nice and firm. Flaky. Our little leaves got a little structure to them. Nothing beautiful, but we could have took a little extra time on that. Let's get a little zoom in on that guy. And of course the fridge knew I was getting ready to turn the video on, so it came on. It has a special knack to do that. Don't you, Mr. Fridge? Alright, I'm going to let this cool about 15-20 minutes and we'll dig into it and see how it looks inside. We are back. It has been about 20 minutes, maybe 25. There's our pie. Edges are nice. Bottom's browned. Let's cut into this guy and see what it looks like. Nice and flaky there, huh? Try this spatula. I'm going to move that off to one side. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Nice, huh? It cut pretty clean. Turn that thing up. How's that look? Stayed together nice. The dough's very flaky. That's from those layers of butter that's in there. We got to cut into it, of course. See how that bottom? Bottom cooked up pretty nice, nice and firm. not real soupy. Well, that came out pretty good. I know it was a long process, but it comes out really cool. I like it.